Welcome everyone to today's episode of Behind the Screen. Now, two charisma casters. One was born with magic in their blood, the other made a deal with something probably not safe. Sorcerer versus Warlock. Same stat, but completely different vibe. One bends reality through sheer willpower, the other borrows power from a patron who may or may not be watching all the time. But here's the real question. If you're sitting down to build a character right now, which one is actually better? Better in combat, customization, storytelling, at the table in general? Because these two classes get compared constantly. And honestly, most people don't fully understand what makes them powerful. Today, we're breaking it down. Sorcerer versus Warlock. Strengths, weaknesses, combat, roleplay, beginner friendliness, and by the end of this video, I'm picking the winner. Alright, first let's just talk about the Sorcerer for a second. The Sorcerer doesn't study magic, they don't bargain for it, they don't pray for it, they are magic. Sorcerer's power comes from within. From bloodline, from accident, from destiny, from something ancient and powerful flowing through their veins. Maybe they're descended from dragons, maybe they were touched by wild magic, maybe they were born during a cosmic event that warped reality around them. But the key thing, their power is innate. Sorcerer fantasy is raw, untamed power. You are the chosen one, the anomaly, the magical prodigy who doesn't need a book to bend reality. Wizards learn spells. Sorcerers force the universe to cooperate. Mechanically, sorcerers are full spellcasters. They use spell slots like most casters. They have a smaller spell list known, meaning you pick your spells carefully. But what makes them unique is their meta magic. This is where sorcerers get scary. You can twin a spell to hit two targets. You can cast a spell silently and subtly. You can quicken a spell and cast it as a bonus action, extend it, empower, bend it. Sorcerers just don't cast spells, they modify them, reshape them, they break the rules of how magic normally works. But here's the trade-off. Sorcerers know fewer spells than most full casters. Their versatility is limited. If you pick the wrong spells, you feel it. You're powerful, but specialized. From a storytelling perspective, sorcerers are deeply personal. Their power is tied to identity. It's in their blood. It might be unstable, it might be feared, it might be something that they're trying to control. And a sorcerer arc is often about control. Do you master your power, or does it master you? So if your fantasy is being a walking magical anomaly, someone who bends spells to their will and carries power in their veins, Sorcerer delivers that in a big way. Now let's talk about the Warlock really quick. The Sorcerer was born with power, but the Warlock made a deal. The Warlock's magic doesn't come from bloodline or study, it comes from a pact, a bargain struck with something powerful and possibly terrifying. An archvey, a fiend, a great old one, a celestial, something ancient, something watching. You don't just cast spells, you're connected to something beyond you, and that connection is always there. Mechanically, Warlocks are a bit weird. They don't have normal spell slots, they have pact magic, meaning fewer spell slots, but they recharge on the short rest. So while most casters are rationing spells across the day, the Warlock is refueling constantly. And then there's the real centerpiece, Eldritch Blast. The most iconic cantrip in the game. With invocations you can push enemies, pull enemies, add your charisma modifier to damage, and extend range. It scales aggressively. A well-built Warlock turns Eldritch Blast into a machine gun. And here's where Warlocks get insane. Invocations. This is where this class explodes with customization. You can see through magical distance, cast spells at will, become a master of the skies, gain ritual casting, enhance your pact weapon. No two Warlocks feel exactly the same. The build variety is wild. But again, there's a trade-off. Very limited spell slots, very limited spell list, and if your table rarely takes short rest, you feel weaker. Warlocks shine in certain pacing environments, and others, they struggle. Are there any videos right now? I love you. From a storytelling perspective, Warlock is a gold mine. Your power comes from someone or something else. That means conflict, temptation, obligation, consequences. Is your patron manipulating you, protecting you, testing you? A Warlock's arc is often about autonomy. Do you break free? Do you deepen the pact? Or do you become the thing that empowered you? The Sorcerer is raw internal power. The Warlock is controlled external power. One bends magic, the other borrows it and pays the price. Alright, now let's talk combat, because theme is cool, but when initiative is rolled, what actually happens? Sorcerers are built for explosive turns. This class is all about bending action economy. Quicken Spell lets you cast a spell as a bonus action. That means you can throw a fireball, and then follow it up with another spell or cantrip. Twin Spell, you take a single target spell like Hold Person, and now it hits 2 enemies. That's devastating. Sorcerers don't just hit hard, they hit unexpectedly hard. If we're talking pure burst damage, sorcerers absolutely compete at the top. Fireball, Disintegrate, Chain Lightning, and with mana magic they can optimize those spells in ways other casters just can't. A properly built sorcerer can just completely erase encounters. But here's where it gets interesting. Sorcerers are strongest when they plan ahead, because they don't know many spells. Their combat identity is defined by your choices. Are you battlefield control? Are you raw damage? Are you debuff support? You can do any of those, but not all of them. You specialize. Now here's the downside. Sorcerers rely on long rests. You burn through spell slots and sorcery points, you feel it. And if you mismanage resources, you're just a cantrip machine for the rest of the day. Powerful, but resource heavy. So in combat, the sorcerer is a burst caster. They bend spells, they break action economy, they deliver massive turns, but they require planning and resource discipline. High ceiling, high responsibility. Alright, if the sorcerer is explosive burst damage, the warlock is relentless pressure. Warlocks don't rely on long rest spell slot hoarding, they get their spell slots back just on a short rest, which means in a campaign that actually takes short rests, they're constantly reloaded. You're not waiting for the boss fight, you're active every encounter. With invocations like Agonizing Blast, you add your charisma modifier to each beam. And at higher levels, that's multiple beams. That's scaling damage. That's battlefield control, with Repelling Blast pushing enemies across the map. A well-built Warlock turns a cantrip into a primary weapon system. Now yes, Warlocks have fewer spell slots, but those slots are always cast at the highest level available. That means every spell hits hard. You're not casting weak filler spells. When you drop a spell, it matters. Depending on your pact and invocations, Warlocks can go ranged blaster, go melee pact of the blade, lean into control and debuffs, or build weird utility hybrids. Class isn't just one thing, it adapts. But here's the weakness. If your DM doesn't give short rests, you suffer. If encounters are sparse and far apart, you can feel limited. And outside of Eldritch Blast, your spell selection is tight. You're powerful, but focused. So in combat, the Warlock isn't about explosive Nova rounds. It's about sustainable output, reliable damage, constant presence, and the ability to keep going while others are running dry. Alright, so who actually wins combat? Sorcerer or Warlock? The honest answer? Depends on what kind of fight we're talking about. If we're talking about one massive high-stakes boss fight, where everything is on the line, Sorcerer probably takes that one. Sorcerers excel at burst, quicken spell, twin hold at person, massive AoE damage. They can bend action economy in ways warlocks just can't. Something erased right this second, sorcerer is terrifying. But if we're talking about a full adventuring day, multiple encounters, short rests happening, warlock starts looking very strong. Because while the sorcerer is rationing spell slots, the warlock is recharging. Eldritch Blast never runs out, pack slots refresh. The warlock is steady, reliable, and relentless. There's also the skill ceiling. A high-level sorcerer with optimized meta magic, insane. But it requires planning, resource management, smart spell selection. Warlock, on the other hand, is more consistent. It's harder to completely mess up a Warlock build. You always have Eldritch Blast as your backbone. So, who wins combat? The question is, who can deliver the most explosive encounter-ending turn? Sorcerer for sure. But if the question is who performs better across a full day of fights, Warlock. It's burst versus endurance. And which one wins depends entirely on how your table runs the game. Alright, combat is one thing, but D&D isn't just about damage numbers, it's about building something that feels unique. So let's talk customization. Sorcerer versus Warlock, who actually gives you more room to build? Sorcerer is customized through subclass and meta magic. Your subclass, Draconic, Wild Magic, Shadow, or Divine Soul, heavily defines your identity. Divine Soul suddenly gives you access to Cleric spells. Shadow Sorcerer leans dark and survivable. Wild Magic turns you into a chaos machine. And then there's Meta Magic. That's where you tweak your spellcasting style. Are you the Twin Spell Specialist, the Spell Manipulator, the Quicken Spell Nola Machine? But here's the catch. Once you choose, you're locked in. Sorcerers don't get a huge toolbox of options every level. Your customization is impactful, but limited. Warlock is ridiculous. First, you pick a patron. That defines your flavor and some core features. Then you pick a packed boon, blade, chain, tome, or talisman. That changes your playstyle entirely. Then you get invocations. This is where things get wild. You can see through magical darkness, cast spells at will, become a ritual caster, enhance Eldritch Blast, go full melee, and you swap some of these as you level, which means your build evolves. Warlock doesn't just customize once, it keeps customizing. So who wins customization? Sorcerer has strong identity, Warlock has strong variety. Sorcerer feels focused and thematic, Warlock feels modular and adaptable. If you want flexibility and build experimentation, Warlock probably wins. If you want a clear magical identity with mechanical punch, Sorcerer delivers. Now, alright, let's talk about something way more important than damage numbers, story. Because at the end of the day, D&D isn't just about winning fights, it's about telling a story. Sorcerer's story is deeply personal. Their power is inside them. It's in their blood, their lineage, their accident, their destiny. And that creates a very specific kind of arc. Sorcerer stories are usually about control. Can I master this power? Why was I chosen? Is this gift or curse? It's internal. The tension lives inside the character. You don't need another NPC to drive your arc. Your magic itself is the conflict. Warlock is the opposite. Your power doesn't come from you, it comes from something else. And that something else has opinions. A patron is built-in story tension. Are they manipulating you, testing you, protecting you, using you? A warlock never exists in isolation. There's always another force at the table, and that creates automatic drama. Sorcerer arcs are introspective. They're about identity, legacy, self-control. Warlock arcs are relational. They're about obligation, temptation, rebellion, corruption. One asks, who am I? The other asks, well, who do I serve? Here's something important. Warlocks naturally create hooks for the DM. Patrons can intervene, send visions, demand favors, create moral dilemmas. Sorcerers require more collaboration to build that same level of narrative tension. It's there, but you have to intentionally create it. Who wins roleplay? Honestly, Warlock has built-in story leverage. The class practically comes with a plot device attached. But Sorcerer can be just as powerful if the player leans into identity and internal struggle. Warlock is external drama, Sorcerer is internal drama. Depending on what kind of story you want to tell, one of those is going to hit harder. Alright, now let's say you're brand new to D&D. You've never played a full caster before, you're staring at the creator creation screen. Which one is actually easier to handle? At first glance, Sorcerer looks straightforward. You're a full caster, you use normal spell slots, you prepare your spells known. Simple. But here's where it gets tricky. Sorcerers know very few spells, which means if you pick wrong, you feel it. You don't have a huge toolbox to fall back on. And then there's meta magic. It's powerful, but it requires understanding timing, action economy, and spell synergy. A new player might not fully realize how strong Quicken spell is, or accidentally waste sorcery points early. Sorcerer has a high ceiling, but it punishes poor planning. Warlock, on the other hand, surprisingly beginner friendly. Why? Because you have Eldritch Blast. No matter what, if you don't know what to do, you blast. It scales automatically, it's reliable, it works. Your spell slots are few, which means fewer choices. That can actually make it easier for new players. Less overwhelm, more clarity, but Warlock mechanics are weird. Short rest spell slots, invocations, pack boons. It's not complicated, but just different. So, which is more beginner friendly? If you want simplicity in moment-to-moment combat, Warlock probably wins. If you want a traditional full caster experience and you're okay with careful planning, Sorcerer can work, but it requires more foresight. Warlock is forgiving, Sorcerer is powerful, but less forgiving. Alright, now, Sorcerer versus Warlock. Burst versus Endurance. Internal power versus borrowed power. Meta magic versus invocation. So, which one is actually better? Here's the truth. There isn't a universally stronger class, but there is a better class for you. If you want explosive turns, if you want to bend action economy, if you want to feel like a magical anomaly that can erase encounters when it matters most, Sorcerer wins. High ceiling, massive burst, incredible synergy potential. When optimized, terrifying. If you want reliable damage every round, if you want customization at every level, if you want built-in narrative tension with the patron watching your choices, Warlock wins. It's adaptable, it's steady, and it comes with story baked in. But here's my real take. At most tables, Warlock feels stronger over time, because D&D isn't usually one giant boss fight. It's multiple encounters, resource management, roleplay, short rests, and Warlock thrives in that ecosystem. Sorcerer shines brightest in controlled, optimized bursts, Warlock shines consistently. So if I had to pick one for overall versatility, sustainability, and narrative potential, I'm giving it to Warlock. But if your fantasy is pure magical dominance and bending the rules of reality, Sorcerer will never disappoint. At the end of the day, though, the stronger class is the one you actually enjoy playing, because the most broken build in D&D is the one you're excited to show up for. Alright, that's my take. Warlock takes the overall win, but Sorcerer absolutely dominates in the right hands. Now I want to hear from you. Which side are you on? Team Born with It or Team Made a Deal? Drop it down in the comments down below, and if you disagree with me, even better, tell me why. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit the like button. It genuinely helps the channel grow, and it tells me you want more class comparisons like this. And if you're into D&D debates, storytelling, DM advice, and the chaos that comes with it, subscribe. We've got a lot more coming. This has been Behind the Screen, where the dice roll low, the builds get spicy, and the arguments are always worth it. I'll see you next session.